Did Brooklyn Beckham really cut off his own family on social media? Cruz Beckham has jumped in to shut down rumors that their parents, David and Victoria, unfollowed Brooklyn and his wife Nicola. Cruz says it was the other way round. Brooklyn blocked his parents and even blocked him. People first spotted that David and Victoria no longer followed the couple, sparking talk of a fresh family feud, just as reports claimed Brooklyn wouldn't be spending Christmas with the Beckhams. Tension has been simmering since Brooklyn and Nicola's 2022 wedding, with the pair skipping David's 50th and even renewing their vows this August without his parents there. Now, with Brooklyn reportedly choosing Nicola's family for the holidays, Cruz is backing mom and dad, saying they'd never turn their backs on their son. So what do you think? Simple social media drama or a clear sign the Beckham family rift is getting even deeper? Tyson Fury hasn't just moved house, he's changed tax systems in a very big way. After Rachel Reeves' budget hit high earners and mansions over $2 million, Fury and his family have reportedly left Lancashire and set up in an £8 million place on the Isle of Man. Here's why that matters. In the UK, top earners pay 45% on the highest slice of their income. On the Isle of Man, the top rate is about 21%, and there's a hard cap of roughly £220,000 a year in personal income tax, no matter how high you earn. On top of that, there's no capital gains tax and no inheritance tax there, and no new mansion tax on a home like his. For someone with a reported fortune around $160 million, that isn't a small difference. It's millions saved every big earning year, and potentially tens of millions protected over a lifetime. Most people can't move countries to escape a tax rise. Tyson Fury can, and he just did. Hollywood is reeling after the shocking deaths of legendary director Rob Reiner and his wife, photographer Michelle Singer Reiner. Police say the couple were found fatally stabbed in their Brentwood, Los Angeles home on December 14th. Their 32-year-old son, Nick Reiner, has now been arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in connection with their deaths. According to investigators, Nick was taken into custody just hours after his sister discovered the bodies. He's being held without bail while prosecutors weigh a possible life sentence or even the death penalty if he's convicted. Nick's struggles have been public for years. He began rehab as a teenager, battled addiction and periods of homelessness, and later co-wrote the semi-autobiographical film, Being Charlie, which his father directed. The movie explored a fractured relationship between a famous father and his addicted son. For now, Nick Reiner has only been accused, not convicted. The investigation is ongoing, and he remains presumed innocent as this tragic case moves through the courts. In Sydney, a former taekwondo instructor has been told he will die in prison for the murders of a 7-year-old student and the boy's parents. 51-year-old Kwang Kyung-yu sat with his head bowed in the New South Wales Supreme Court as Justice Ian Harrison sentenced him to life in prison with no possibility of parole. The judge said Yu's level of culpability was so extreme that only a life sentence could satisfy the community's need for punishment, protection, and deterrence. The court heard that Yu was driven by jealousy of the family's financial success and deep insecurity about his own status. In February last year, he strangled the boy and his mother at his martial arts academy in Western Sydney, then drove her car to the family home and fatally stabbed the boy's father. Yu later expressed remorse in a letter to the court, saying he was held captive by sin and wished he could turn back time. But the judge described the killings as horrific, senselessly cruel acts carried out without a trace of human compassion. Russia's latest must-have New Year gift isn't a gadget. It's a Vladimir Putin 2026 wall calendar. Bookshops in Moscow say copies are flying off the shelves, with some stores almost sold out and waiting on new deliveries. Each month shows the Russian president carefully staged, meeting generals, attending ceremonies, even casually playing the piano, all designed to project a strong but approachable leader. The calendar also features patriotic slogans and tough love advice about hard work and never complaining. Not everyone is a fan, though. Some shoppers say they'd rather hang pictures of cats, horses, or cute bunnies, and others already own Putin mugs, clocks, or posters and don't need another reminder on the wall. The craze fits a wider global nostalgia for what some call strongman leaders, even as Western governments pressure countries like India to rethink their growing trade ties with Moscow. Donald Trump's recent role in helping broker a ceasefire in Gaza has revived his image as a deal-maker on the world stage. In Jerusalem, regional leaders even hailed him as a kind of peace president. So a big question followed. If one war can be cooled down, why not Ukraine? Even President Zelensky hinted at this, saying that if a war can be stopped in one region, surely others can be too. But Gaza and Ukraine are completely different conflicts. Gaza is a tiny, densely packed strip of land. Both sides were exhausted, dependent on outside backers and vulnerable to U.S. pressure. Regional powers like Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey all pushed Hamas toward accepting a deal. In many ways, peace there was imposed. Ukraine, by contrast, is a full-scale war between two sovereign states. Russia is not Hamas. It has its own arms industry, huge territory, oil money, and big partners like China and India. Sanctions hurt, but they haven't broken it. That's why many analysts say Trump's Gaza playbook won't simply transfer to Ukraine. Ending this war will be longer, harder, and far less under Washington's control. On a summer evening at Bondi Beach, a Hanukkah celebration turned into a scene of terror. Gunmen opened fire on families gathered along Campbell Parade, sending people running for their lives. In the chaos, one man stepped forward instead of running away. 43-year-old father of two, Ahmed Al-Ahmed. Before he moved, he turned to his cousin and said, "I'm going to die. Tell my family I went down to save people's lives." Then he ran towards one of the attackers, tackled him to the ground, and wrestled the weapon from his hands. Ahmed was shot in the arm and hand and is now in hospital, riddled with bullets but alive. His parents, who only recently joined him in Australia after years apart, call him a hero. So does the Premier of New South Wales, who says Ahmed's actions saved countless lives. In a moment of hate-filled violence, one man's instinct was simple: to protect strangers, whatever the cost. Police say at least 15 people have been killed and about 40 others are in hospital after gunmen opened fire during a Hanukkah celebration at Sydney's Bondi Beach, a gathering for the local Jewish community. Victims range in age from a 10-year-old child to an 87-year-old. Among the dead are a rabbi who helped organize the event, a Holocaust survivor, and several foreign nationals. New South Wales police say 2 suspected gunmen were involved. One was shot dead at the scene, and the other is in critical condition under police guard. The attack has been declared a terrorist incident, and authorities say it was designed to target Jewish Australians. Witnesses describe scenes of chaos but also courage. A bystander who tackled and disarmed one of the shooters despite being shot himself is being hailed as a hero. World leaders have condemned what Australia's Prime Minister calls an act of evil anti-Semitism, as investigators search for answers and the community begins to mourn. Simon Cowell is back in the spotlight with the new Netflix series, Simon Cowell: The Next Act, in documenting his search for a new boy band. The show was filmed around the time former One Direction member Liam Payne died in October 2024, after falling from a hotel balcony in Argentina. Payne was just 16 when Cowell and the X Factor launched him to global fame. Now critics are questioning whether the same high-pressure boy band system that shaped Payne is being repeated. Cowell insists he cared deeply for Payne and cannot be held responsible. But many viewers say his new project suggests the industry has learned very little. Bashar al-Assad, an eye doctor turned president, ruled Syria for nearly a quarter of a century after inheriting power from his father. 13 years of civil war, chemical attacks, torture prisons, and bombed-out cities made his rule a byword for brutality. In December 2024, a loose alliance of rebel forces stormed Damascus. Political prisoners poured out of Sinai as Assad fled into exile. 1 year on, Syria is still on a knife edge. Shattered economy, simmering sectarian tensions, and a fragile new government struggling to rebuild. Paris, Vladimir Putin's alleged daughter, Luisa Rozova, is confronted on the street. Ukrainian journalist Dmytro Sviatnenko says, "A Russian missile killed my brother." He asks if she supports her father's policies and why she won't speak. She objects to filming, replies, "What does that have to do with me?" He urges, "Call him. Come to Kiev." Airspace has been closed since 2022. She says, "I can't help you. I'm very sorry." Then adds she regrets harm to innocent people but isn't responsible. Context. Luisa, Elizaveta Krivonogic, using Rednova in France, has lived in Paris for years. The encounter spreads online, reigniting debate over family ties and accountability. Shock royal shakeup. Andrew stripped of his final titles. King Charles has removed Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's last honors, officially recorded today. Order of the Garter, gone. Royal Victorian Order, cancelled and annulled. Last month he lost his HRH style and Prince title. His Navy rank is now under review. He's set to leave Royal Lodge and relocate to Sandringham next year. Allegations linked to Jeffrey Epstein still shadow him. Andrew denies them. Royal roles ended. What's next for Andrew? Sun low over Luxor's West Bank. Dust hangs like gold. An archaeological team follows a jagged line of mud brick. Zigzags, like teeth against the sky. Someone brushes sand from a corner, then another, Walls appear, then streets. This isn't a tomb. It's a city. And it's been sleeping for 3,400 years. They step through a doorway. Clay seal with Amenhotep III's cartouche. Ovens, still blackened. Storage jars stacked like soldiers. A dropped bead. A fishhook. Loom weights by a half-woven thread. Every room whispers. Someone just left. The zigzag walls make sense now. Defense, order, neighborhoods. Courtyards open into workshops. A bakery feeds a block. An office tallies grain. A place built at Egypt's glittering height. Prosperity baked into every brick. Then the trail goes cold. Akhenaten moves the capital to Amarna. Hearths cool. Doors are sealed. Sand closes the ledger. Camera lifts over streets reborn from dust. A city once golden, found again. Everyday Egypt alive in the light. Ohio, Stewartsville. Wildlife rehabilitator Jody Prager, 64, died after a deer attack. She'd spent 12 years caring for white-tailed deer on her property. On November 15th, inside a deer enclosure, a buck turned aggressive. Her family called 911. Deputies forced entry. One buck lunged. Officers shot the animal to reach her. Prager died at the scene. Several deer were present. The exact attacker isn't confirmed. State wildlife and agriculture officials are investigating housing, permits, and what went wrong. Loved ones say a longtime neutered deer named Weezer was not involved. Updates to follow. Former allies? Not anymore. A blast rips near Azerbaijan's Kyiv mission. Fence shredded, cars scarred, no injuries. Baku hauls in Russia's ambassador, Moscow stays silent. Trigger point, Aliyev meets NATO as Baku widens its bets with China. Not a one-off. Kharkiv 2022, Kinzhal near Kyiv 2024, Sokar, Odessa, and embassy damage 2025. Coordinates were shared in 2022. So accident or pressure tactic? Drones, border squeezes, deportations. The pressure is on, and this story isn't over. Tariffs are taxes on imported goods. The Congressional Budget Office now estimates these tariffs could reduce United States borrowing by about $3 trillion by the year 2035, which is $1 trillion less than earlier estimates. That includes $2.5 trillion in lower borrowing and about $0.5 trillion in lower interest costs. The national debt is still near $38 trillion. The White House supports the tariffs, but the proposed $2,000 payments to citizens remain uncertain and may depend on legal and policy reviews. Russia struck Europe again. Poland is investigating explosions on the Warsaw to Lublin railway and cut tracks, calling it likely sabotage. A gas tanker near Romania caught fire after a drone hit and nearby villages were evacuated. Russian drones have crossed European airspace and jets were reported over Estonia. These are classic hybrid tactics: sabotage, drones, cyber, and propaganda. Poland's prime minister called the attacks unprecedented as NATO countries investigate. At what point does hybrid war become an act of war? Where is NATO's red line? 31 October 2025. Shenzhou 21 docks with Tiangong. 5 November 2025. Debris nixed. Shenzhou 20. Hairline window cracks, return scrubbed. 9 extra days on station. Checklists, backups, steady hands. 14 though. November 2025. Call made. Ride Shenzhou 21 home. Touchdown in the Gobi, safe. But the replacement crew now waits without a return ship. Good news, Shenzhou 22 stands by to launch when appropriate. Space is risky, the plan is calm. Bring everyone home, one ship at a time. California night. Week 2, and 9-year-old Melody is still missing. A camera freezes Oct's 7. Gray hoodie, what looks like a wig. A rental counter in Lompoc. Detectives lock the window. Oct 710, a road trip with her mother. Police say the mother hasn't cooperated. 4'6", about 60 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. If you've seen her, call authorities. Don't self-search, share verifiable tips. Tonight, Russia's night sky is on fire. Ukrainian drones hit the Lukoil refinery in Kstovo. Flames up, damage unknown. In Bashkortostan, the Sterlitamak petrochemical plant erupted. Residents posted shaky clips, orange glow, sirens, fear. Officials urged calm, calling it a water treatment blast. Ukraine says about 20 fuel tanks and 2 pump stations were destroyed. 2 stories, 1 blaze. What's clear, fuel lines feeding the war are targets far from the front. For people nearby, the war just felt closer than ever. DHS says it was a targeted, intelligence-based operation near Norfolk's Military Highway. A late-night vehicle stop. Flashing lights cut the dark. One man bolts from the car, vaults the guardrail, sprints into traffic. 24-year-old Jose Rivera of Honduras, running. Headlights bearing down. A pickup surges through the lane. Screech, impact, silence. Agents rush in, press for breath. Call 911. Start CPR. Traffic slows. Onlookers freeze. Sirens stitch the night together. By morning, a name, a life cut short, a highway reopened. Virginia State Police opened the case. Details still under review. Questions hang over the asphalt. What happened and who answers for it? They bought a clifftop dream. A $17.8 million Balmoral mansion kissed by Sydney Light. Then the scaffolds rose. And so did tempers. Builder James Watkins says the final act cost $161,000 more. The couple, Kate and NRL great Luke Ricketson, say they were overcharged. Invoices became exhibits. A backyard pool turned into a paper battlefield. An independent audit questioned costs. The builder fired back. No complaints during the build. Now the ocean watches as lawyers circle. Dream home, courtroom reality. A mom thought her 13-year-old's neck lumps were tonsillitis. By February, Tyler had visible lumps and growing fatigue. Blood tests came back erratic. After several GP visits with no answers, he was rushed to A&E on May 18th. A CT, ultrasound, and X-ray revealed malignancy. He started chemotherapy in June. 2 months later, doctors confirmed stage 4 Hodgkin lymphoma. 6 chemo rounds, 8 blood transfusions. Radiotherapy is next. Family life flipped overnight. Schools, sports, everything on hold. Latest scan shows some non-active areas. Cautious hope, but a long road ahead. Ex-Green Beret skips hearing. Arrest warrant issued. A federal judge in Tampa issued a warrant for Jordan Gowd after he missed a bond hearing on pretrial conditions. The former Green Beret is accused of plotting a 2020 raid on Venezuela and faces weapons smuggling charges. Accused, 2020 Venezuela raid, weapons smuggling. He'd been out on bond, backed by filmmaker Jen Gutien's Tuama Muller apartment. She testified he threatened her and texted he wouldn't return to prison. After a 30-minute no-show, Judge Christopher ordered the warrant. A probation officer said his ankle monitor still pinged in Tampa. Trial is slated for February on export license violations tied to AR-15 shipments. Authorities say the investigation is ongoing. Oklahoma, Valentine's Day, 2023. Holly, 30, a beloved Elgin teacher, took a sip of a margarita that contained industrial degreaser. Her mouth burned instantly. She ran to the bathroom, vomiting and rinsing with water. Over the next 2 years, she suffered severe esophageal injuries and underwent dozens of surgeries. After a recent procedure, she died on Thursday. Police in Elgin say state investigators are on the case. The restaurant issued an apology in 2023. A civil case reportedly settled. Holly leaves a husband and 3 children. Are you the youngest in your family? Stereotypes say funnier, spoiled. Science says, not a fixed type. Personality doesn't reliably change by birth order. Trends, not rules. More risk-taking, entrepreneurial, resilient, pro-social. One study. Youngest from non-self-employed families. 50% likelier to start businesses. Some data. Slightly lower rates of certain mental health issues. Intelligence? Firstborns score a bit higher on average, but families vary. Context matters. Parenting, genetics, dynamics shape you more. So, youngest or not, you're not defined by birth order. Own your strengths.
I was 22 when I smacked my 6-year-old. The sound is still in my head 26 years later. Back then, people said it was normal. It wasn't. A strike teaches fear, not respect, and it breaks trust. Today, experts link harsh words and hits to lasting harm. If I could rewind, I'd breathe, pause, and choose calm. You can now.
J.D. Vance faces backlash over a reshared 9/11 clip. NYC candidate Zohran Mamdani said his aunt stopped riding the subway after 9/11, feeling unsafe in her hijab. Vance reposted it, saying, "The real victim was his aunt who got bad looks." Critics said he distorted the remark. Journalists and creators pushed back, citing post-9/11 harassment of Muslims. Mehdi Hassan. Imagine mocking brown people while married to a brown woman. Debate exploded across timelines. Context matters more than outrage bait. Brit tourist lost in the Texas desert after data cut off. Jamie Oak drove 3 hours from Dallas to stargaze. His roaming hit a cap. Service stopped. No GPS, no calls. He dialed 911. Not a crime or medical emergency. Call handlers reached park rangers via the rental car tracker. Rangers advised, stay in the car, engine off. Rattlesnakes nearby. He waited alone for 4 hours under the desert sky. Deputies found him and escorted him out. He paid a $200 rescue fee. Shaken, but safe. Travel tip: download offline maps, carry water, check roaming caps. On October 17th, around 2 p.m., police say 23-year-old Deborah Beane stopped at a green light. 21-year-old Cantrell honked. Benefiel allegedly followed him, shouted, and fired into his car on Donald Avenue, about half a mile away. The bullet struck Settle's chest. He was taken to hospital and later died. Detectives located Benefiel within hours using plate reader tech and found a gun at her home under a search warrant. She's charged with murder and criminal recklessness and is held without bond. A moment of anger should not cost someone their life, said the prosecutor. Next court date, November 4th, officials urge drivers to de-escalate and call police. Have you heard? Avatar, Fire and Ash, the third film in James Cameron's record-breaking franchise, is getting scorched by critics ahead of its UK release this Friday, costing around £300 million and running a massive 3 hours and 17 minutes. Reviewers say the plot feels recycled, and the movie is simply too long. The Telegraph slapped it with 1 star, calling it long, humorless, and over-designed. The Guardian dismissed it as a giant, uninteresting 3D spectacle, while the BBC compared it to nearly 3 hours of screensaver graphics and clunky dialogue. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's currently sitting at a franchise low score in the high 60s, even as some outlets still praise the jaw-dropping visuals and action on Pandora. Fire and Ash continues Jake Sully and Neytiri's story, introduces the fiery Ash people, and is meant to wrap up the saga's first major arc. But with 2 more sequels planned, many are asking, should Cameron quit while he's ahead? Would one photo make you think twice about visiting a country? Recently, Miss Finland, Sarah Zafte, shared a picture online where she pulled the corners of her eyes with a caption about eating with the Chinese. For many people in China, Japan, and South Korea, that gesture is a painful racist stereotype, not a joke. The backlash was so strong that she lost her Miss Finland title. Some Finnish politicians even copied the same gesture in support, and that made things even worse. Finland's prime minister had to step in, call the behavior thoughtless and stupid, and publicly apologize to Asian countries. Even Finland's national airline, Finnair, was dragged into the storm, facing angry comments and calls for boycotts, even though it had nothing to do with the original post. In the end, the runner-up, Tara Lehtinen, became the new Miss Finland. This whole story is a reminder. When we travel, work online, or represent a country, small gestures aren't small at all. Respect is part of the journey.
Edge computing 是在数据产生的地方就近处理的技术。In English, Edge computing processes data near the source instead of the cloud. 这样可以降低延迟，提升效率。Data augmentation 是用变换数据的方法扩大训练集。In English, it means increasing training data by transformations like rotation or noise. 有助于提升模型泛化能力。Speech recognition 是将语音转为文字的技术。In English, speech recognition converts spoken language into text. 常用于语音助手、字幕生成等。Computer vision 是让计算机理解和分析图像的技术。In English, computer vision enables machines to interpret visual information. 常见于自动驾驶、人脸识别等领域。NLP 是让计算机理解和处理人类语言的技术。 In English, NLP stands for Natural Language Processing. 它是大语言模型、语音助手等应用的基础。
Inference 是什么？ AI 做出回答、分类、推荐全靠它。Inference 指 AI 用学到的模型来做预测和输出。In English, inference is when an AI model uses what it learned to make predictions. 比如问 ChatGPT DeepSeek 文心一言问题，最后输出回答的步骤就是 inference。记住 inference 等于 AI 真正用起来的那一步。想继续学 AI 英语，记得关注我。Pre-training 是什么？ AI 的基础教育。Pre-training 是先用海量数据训练 AI， 建立基础能力。In English, pre-training means training a model on large data sets to learn general patterns. 比如 ChatGPT 先读数十亿句子才会理解语言。记住 pre-training 等于 AI 的通识教育阶段。想继续学 AI 英语，记得关注我。Fine tuning 是什么？让 AI 更聪明的秘密就是它。Fine tuning 是基于预训练模型，用新数据再训练。In English, fine tuning means training a pre-trained model further on new data. 比如把通用 AI 改成法律助理，靠的就是 fine tuning。记住 fine tuning 等于 AI 为你私人定制。想继续学 AI 英语，记得关注我。Token 是什么？ AI 用来计费和分段的核心。在 AI 里 token 是文本的最小单位。In English, a token is the smallest unit of text AI models process. 例如单词、子词和符号都能是 token。AI 按 token 来计算生成和费用。记住 token 等于 AI 看懂文字的最小块。想继续学 AI 英语，记得关注我。Dataset 是什么？ AI 学习最重要的教材。Dataset 是用来训练 AI 的大量数据集合。In English, a dataset is a large collection of data used to train AI models. 比如图片库、文本对话、语音、录音都是 datasets。记住 dataset 等于 AI 的知识来源。想继续学 AI 英语，关注我。Model 是什么？ AI 里不是模特。Model 在 AI 里是训练后能做成预测或生成内容的程序。In English, an AI model is a trained program that makes predictions or generates content. 比如 ChatGPT 图形识别系统都是 AI models。你记住 model 等于训练好的智能系统。想继续学 AI 英语，记得关注我。Algorithm 是什么？ AI 的灵魂就是它。Algorithm 就是解决问题的规则或步骤。In English, an algorithm is a set of rules or steps for solving a problem. 比如推荐视频、自动驾驶，背后都有算法在决定结果。记住，没有 algorithm 就没有智能。关注我，每天学一个 AI 单词。